Howdy, readers. This is Jason from Chapter and Verse, and today we're just going to do a kind of brief shelf tour. This is the second shelf of our first fiction bookcase, and while you'll see a lot of books, or some books on it, that are discussed widely on BookTube, including Days Without End by Sebastian Barry, which I haven't read yet, although I have read his Annie Dunn, which is magnificent. So while you'll find books like that, like Days Without End, on this shelf, I wanted to instead focus on a couple of books that might be far lesser known in the BookTube community. And the first of those is this one here, and this is Havoc in Its Third Year by Ronan Bennett. All right, so this is a novel. When was this published? So this was, if memory serves, this was longlisted for the Booker Prize the year it came out. This was in 2004. This came out, and I read it way back then. This is set in the early 17th century, and this book is about religious extremism on some level, but more accurately, we might say it is about paranoia and suspicion, and the ways in which communities can kind of explode with fear. There's something of the crucible, I think, a little bit about this novel. But it's just splendid. And if you have read, say, The Wake by Paul Kingsnorth, or Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, you would really like this. My favorite thing about this book is the prose itself, the language. There's something really kind of rustic and alien about the language. So I've just opened up to chapter 1 here, and I'm just going to read you the first paragraph. When the women found milk in her breasts and other secret feminine tokens, Scaife, the constable's man, an archdolt, was dispatched across the wind-swept moors and icy mountains to fetch Mr. John Brigg, coroner in the wapentakes of Agbrigg and Morley. There's just something very Thomas Hardy about the prose in this novel. It very successfully puts you in a completely different, not just a different world and time and landscape, but a different worldview. And you feel a little seduced by it and a little frightened of it. One more book. What else should we look at here? So I haven't shelved this yet. I just recently got it. Got this with a gift card that I got for Christmas, is what it was. So this is James Blish's quartet of novels, Cities in Flight. Oh, there, you can see it better right there. So I've only read the first of these 4 novels that are included in this single volume. And that first novel is called They Shall Have Stars. And I read that, 8 years ago, something like this. That is, I would say, one of the best 3 science fiction novels that I have ever read. I've really been looking forward to reading the rest of the quartet. But right after I read They Shall Have Stars, this edition, which is published by Overlook Press, it went out of print. So I was just unable to find it for a long, long time. And I would find copies on eBay, but I wasn't willing to spend the money. But I would check every 6 months online or so to see if Overlook had brought it back into print. And they have. So if you're a science fiction geek and you're looking to read a bit more expansively in classic sci-fi, pick up James Blish. They Shall Have Stars. As you can see, we've got some of the Penguin coffee cups that I see many of you drinking tea out of frequently. Our Virginia Wolf one has a chip in the rim. And here we have the third shelf down on that same bookcase. So I'll just talk to you about a couple of books here on this shelf. And here's a book that seems to me to be far too little known. And this is Madeline is Sleeping by Sarah Shun-Lien Bynum. And this was a first novel. It was a finalist for the National Book Award. It's got blurbs on the back from Michael Cunningham, Marilyn Robinson, so heavy hitters. And when this initially came out, I was just really intrigued by the cover, which has some kind of Lewis Carroll connection, actually. So I checked it out from the library, and I read it. And it is gorgeous. It is really, it's kind of a novel comprised of prose poems. And I just remember thinking this has some of the most beautiful, ephemeral writing in it that I had encountered in many, many years. So I will just find a snapshot of this. And yeah, so this is like these little sometimes single line chapters. So this is just a few pages into the book. And this is called Hush. When Madeline sleeps, Mother says, the cows give double their milk. Pansies sprout up between the floorboards. Your father loves me, but I remain slender and childless. I can hear the tumult of pears and apples falling from the trees like rain. Smooth your sister's coverlet. Arrange her hair on the pillowcase. Be silent as saints. We do not wish to wake her. So the whole book is like that. It's just dreamlike and it's delicate. You feel like if you speak too loudly or if you think too loudly when you're reading it, that you'll disturb something, right? That there'll be some kind of ripple in the world of the story. Yeah, it's that kind of book. Madeline is sleeping. So the last book I'll look at on this shelf is, well, I suppose I'll just show you guys our folio edition of Oscar and Lucinda. Okay, and so here is the folio edition of Oscar and Lucinda by Peter Carey. And it's funny, right? So I had been buying folio editions for not very long, and I didn't have very many of them. Look at that beautiful illustration there. I still remember this. My wife and I were driving to, I think we were driving to the bookstore where we worked one evening. Here's a first edition of it as well. This one is signed. And I just remember telling my wife, you know, if I could have any book released by the Folio Society, I would want an edition of Oscar and Lucinda. And a week later, Folio Society announced that they were releasing it. So I was over the moon. That is this shelf, right? So we've got our Backwards Distilling bottles here, Strongman Gin. Dave at Wild Reed. If you can somehow get a bottle of Strongman Gin from Backwards, you're going to be very happy you did. Those are a couple shelves, and I'll be back again soon with another couple of shelves. So see you guys soon.